Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are today. Welcome to our tutorial today. This particular unit we're covering today is resolving routine problems in an automotive workplace. Now, I think we all have challenges and problems in our day-to-day working life from time to time. Sometimes those problems need to be resolved and worked through. So this unit is all about how to resolve and work through those problems and issues you might see in your day-to-day working life. I'm just going to share a screen now to as an introduction to this particular unit. As I briefly mentioned before, key outcomes required under this unit are to identify, clarify, and resolve some routine basic problems commonly encountered in an automotive workplace. So it involves determining and implementing solutions, identifying problems, and reporting on their effectiveness. It also applies to those working in automotive service and repair industry. Some of the key outcomes are to identify and clarify the nature of routine problems, determine and implement and evaluate solutions, and assist others to identify and clarify and resolve problems. So I'm just going to move into the learner resource now for this particular unit. I've got a PowerPoint presentation here. So let's just have a look at the first few pages as we scroll down. Now, this particular unit is part of the Certificate 2 in the Automotive Vocational Preparation. This is one of the core units that we have to train. And I think problem-solving experience or problem-solving methods and ideas are much valued in today's business and working life. So our course objective, I think I've just touched on that before, resolving routine problems. We've got a quick view on safety while we're working in and around automotive. We always have to consider safety, but I understand you're at home, most likely watching this, so it's less of a concern than as if you're in the college. So I might just start by overviewing some of the causes of problems at work. So workplace problems can be caused by all sorts of issues, such as micromanagement and lack of accountability, difficult work environments, red tape, lack of advancement opportunities. Some other causes can include poor communication, undefined processes or procedures, lack of resources, financial difficulties, not being properly trained. That's a big one in today's industry. Not being very well trained can make a big difference to your day-to-day working life and can be the root cause of a lot of problems. A lack of motivation and stress at work as well. Some additional factors could be heavy workloads, poor performance, lack of planning, unclear expectations, poor customer service, strained working relationships, poor management, staff turnover and poor job fit. All of these can be causes of problems at work. So what can we do about those problems? And what are some examples of workplace problems? Some examples could be, and not limited to, missed deadlines, not meeting goals. Just excuse me for a minute. I just had to sneeze then, so I just thought I'd mute the microphone and stop the video, so nobody needs to see that. So examples of workplace problems. Not meeting goals and difficulties getting along with others, bad customer service, over-promising or over-committing, difficult co-workers, lack of teamwork, poor attitude, unhappy clients, insufficient or lack of feedback, poor work environment, or inefficient or obsolete systems. Another one is duplication of efforts. Sometimes you might find yourself in a role where you're doing something else and or you're doing a particular job and somebody else might be doing the same job as well. So there's a duplication of efforts. And also one which we touched on before, inadequate training. So they are some examples of workplace problems. can be very much a varied problems can occur in a workplace. So there's no one reason for problems. So once we've got a problem, what do we do about that problem? What can we do? What is a basic problem-solving process? I've just put together 7 steps for effective problem-solving. So if we, first of all, step 1 would be identify the issues. So be clear about what the problem is. So it's all about being clear and breaking down the actual issues. What is that problem? And document very clearly what the problem is. Also, we need to understand everyone else's interests. So understand how everyone can be impacted and what their own interests are by that particular problem. We might need to list some possible solutions or options to resolve the problem. We might have to consider and evaluate those options. We might have to, out of a bunch of different options, select the very best option. We might have to document those options and perhaps any agreement or changes that are being made into, say, a policy or a procedure. And then we might have to agree on contingencies. So if there's something else goes wrong, we need to understand what we can do in contingency. Monitoring also, and evaluation as well. These 7 sort of basic steps will help you resolve most issues, most basic issues anyway, in an automotive workplace. There are a whole bunch of other ideas and other methods to problem solving, but this is just a basic 7-step process and plan. So what are some of the skills that you might need to aid in problem solving? So a couple of really important skills that we all need in our day-to-day lives are decision-making skills, particularly useful when choosing between alternatives. Identifying the best solution and being able to explain why the chosen solution is the best one under those circumstances. So decision-making skills. We don't want to be stuck like a deer in the headlights where we can't make a decision. So it's useful to work on your own decision-making skills. Another one which is hugely important is communication skills. Communication helps in letting others know that there is a problem. Then secondly, outlining how the problem will be corrected. Thirdly, in assigning responsibilities and explaining to others what they should be doing, and also letting others know that the problem has been resolved. So communication skills are particularly important, making sure others can understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to get across. So work on your own communication skills and your vocabulary. Risk-taking, the ability to identify the pros and the cons of an alternative, and then arming yourself with enough information to carry out the plan of action. So maybe you need to take a little bit of a risk in considering the pros and the cons. Continuing on, some more skills to aid in problem solving. Prioritization. So what comes first? What comes second? What comes third? So when faced with many problems at work, being able to identify the most urgent and important problem that should be fixed. There are skills to prioritization and some logic. You can use all sorts of different techniques to prioritize what should be done. Breaking things down into urgent, important, unimportant, and urgent. So there's a whole bunch of different headings, if you like, that you can help to prioritise your work and prioritise results. Flexibility. It's always good to be flexible when dealing with challenges. Things come to you from left and right. Conditions and situations change all the time. So willingness to reanalyze and plans and assumptions and recalibrate them is really an essential skill. So flexibility. Some other helpful traits consist of willingness to receive feedback. It's really important that you don't get frustrated if somebody gives you some genuine, honest feedback. Determination as well. You've got to be determined to get the result, to have the problem solved. Perseverance might be something that takes a couple of weeks or even months to resolve. So perseverance to see those things through and knowing that there's a sunny day on the other side of your problems is worthwhile. So perseverance. Along with perseverance, I think comes patience. You have to persevere at something. It might be that you're not making a lot of forward progress, but if you're patient and you persevere, then eventually you will get there. Connecting the dots or figuring out the relationship between things, and also tolerance for uncertainty. So tolerance is a big one as well. There are some additional problem-solving methods and techniques that we can use. I gave you earlier a 7-step process, but along with that particular process, there are different methods that we can use. One of those is brainstorming. So brainstorming involves, it's a group activity where you all would get together and brainstorm some ideas, some methods and techniques and outcomes and ways to resolve a dispute. Another one is called root cause analysis. Now, root cause analysis is getting to the bottom of the issue, the actual root cause of the problem. There's a trial and error approach, which is kind of pretty self-explanatory in itself. It's trying things and seeing if that works or seeing if it doesn't work. That's one method. And there's some cause and effect strategies as well. I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more on each one of those just now. So what is brainstorming? So it's sort of, I think everybody's heard the term brainstorming. So what actually is brainstorming, and what are some rules for efficient brainstorming? So brainstorming is a group activity by which efforts are made to find a conclusion for a specific problem by gathering a list of ideas spontaneously contributed by its members. So people are able to think more freely, and they suggest as many spontaneous new ideas as possible. So it's really about, brainstorming is about getting everybody's input and coming up with a whole bunch of ideas. So 7 rules for efficient brainstorming. First one would be deferred judgment. So I think when you're in a brainstorming session, it's really important to defer your judgment or to engage people in a brainstorming activity. Don't judge other people. That will stifle ideas and limit the amount of options that might come out of that idea. So don't judge other people, so defer your judgment. What sounds like a silly solution or idea might end up being the seed of something much better. Encourage wild ideas. So it doesn't hurt to think really left field or think out of the box. Some wild ideas often are the best ideas. Again, they might have the seed of a brilliant solution inside that wild idea. Build on others' ideas. Look, there might be some ideas and some options out there already that have some significant potential, but just need a little bit more work. So build on others' ideas. In a brainstorming session too, number 4 would be to stay on topic. So don't get off track, which can obviously send you in a different direction. So stay on topic, talk about the issue at hand, and just ensure that the meeting stays together. One conversation at a time. I think in meetings and brainstorming, let's stay with one conversation at a time. That's another really good way of coming up with lots of different ideas. If everybody's thinking about the same thing and the same conversation at a time, look, we all think differently, and to come up with a whole bunch of ideas is really a good outcome. So stay on one conversation at a time. Also visual. I think we all know some of us are visual, some of us learn in different ways and see things differently. Some people see numbers, and some people would prefer the spoken word, and others are much more visual. I think I'm a pretty visual sort of person. I like to see pictures, and I think a lot of automotive mechanics are the same. So draw some pictures, use some butcher's paper up on a wall. So be visual. Number 7, go for quantity. Don't dismiss anything. Lots of ideas is what we're looking for in a brainstorming session. Come up with as many ideas as possible. Go for quantity. So nothing is silly. Nothing is off the table. Wild ideas, anything that, that helps you come up with a whole host of different options. So that's a quick overview of brainstorming. Our next one is root cause analysis. Each one of these methods of problem solving has its own theories, if you like, and they can be used individually or they can be used all together. This particular one is root cause analysis. It's in its heading is the root cause. A root cause is an initiating cause of a condition or a problem. Excuse me. A root cause is the cause that is the root, deep, basic, or fundamental underlying initial cause of an issue. So let's start by looking at 6 steps to perform a root cause analysis. So initially, we're going to define the event. We're going to find the causes. We're going to find solutions. We're going to take action and verify the solution's effectiveness. So what we're looking for is the underlying, deep, basic, fundamental underlying cause of an issue. And there's 6 steps to get to that root cause. Just scrolling down to the next one, what is trial and error approach? The trial and error is a problem-solving method in which multiple attempts are made to reach a solution. So it's, again, in its heading, trial and error is trying things, trying methods and observing if it works. If it doesn't, trying another method, trying something else. That particular process would then be repeated until success or a solution is reached. For example, imagine moving a large object such as a couch into your house. So you first try to move it through the front door and it gets stuck. You then try to move it through the back door. It doesn't fit either. You then move it through the double patio doors and there you go, it fits. You just used a trial and error to solve a problem. A gentleman called Edward Thorndike was a researcher who studied learning theory by using cats and specially made puzzle box. And he studied how those cats learned to escape from the box and concluded that it was through trial and error. It was a shift from the theory of insight learning, which proposes that problem solving happens in a sudden flash of understanding rather than through trial and error. So a couple of different theories at play there, the theory of insight learning or the theory of trial and error. And he realised that these cats worked out the puzzle by trial and error rather than insight. And you can see how that's a valid approach to problem solving, trial and error. So on to the next one, cause and effect strategy. In essence, the cause is the thing that makes other things happen. And the effect refers to what results. It is the what happened next that results from a preceding cause. So to put it another way, the cause is the why something happened and the effect is what happened. So cause is the why, because of this, because of that, as a result of, as a consequence of, that would be the cause. The effect is so therefore this resulted in, consequently this happened, hence that happened, and accordingly those things happened. So cause and effect. This was the cause, that was the effect. So that's a cause and effect strategy. So it's a matter of breaking down all those finer points and coming to a cause and effect. I'm just going to touch on this fishbone diagram, and then we're going to, I'm going to share a video with you, which gives you a little bit more of an understanding of problem solving methods and techniques. The cause and effect fishbone diagram, commonly known as fishbone because it looks a little bit like a fish. There's the fish's spine and there are the skeleton of the fish. It's designed to stimulate a team's brainstorming on root causes and is the cause and effect diagram. The fishbone will help visually display Now, I mentioned sometimes people are more visual than not. It helps display those causes in a much more visual way. So we're going to break a problem down into different main headings. And in this particular one, we've got policies, procedures, plant, and people. And you can see it further breaking down the policies, the cause, and the why. So we can break that, that down into further smaller bones, if you like, or smaller details under those major subheadings or major groups. So that's a quick understanding of Fishbone Diagram. What I'm going to do now is share a video with you, and I'll just share that now. Let me just share that screen. It's a YouTube video on the 5 whys of a problem solving. I hope the audio works okay here. Sometimes the audio is a bit glitchy.
So let's take a look at the problem-solving method known as the 5 whys.
I'll just turn that up a bit. What is root cause analysis?
Think about the things that bother you at work or problems that you encounter daily. Do you tend to jump straight in and treat the symptoms? Or worse, look for someone to blame or figure out the underlying cause of the problem? Are you fed up in solving the same problem again and again? This is why root cause analysis is a very useful and productive tool or technique in identifying and analyzing the problem, defining and eliminating the root cause, and validating that the corrective action also prevented recurrence of the problem. It is the objective of root cause analysis to improve the system and processes, rather than immediately tagging people as the problem. When should we perform root cause analysis? Some of the reasons why there is a gap between the current condition and the desired condition are the following: failure in the process, machine and supplier defects, system or organization failure, excess inventory, safety or environmental issues, computer issues, lack of training, or poor written work instructions. Here are 4 easy steps in root cause analysis. Number 1, clarify the problem. A problem well defined is a problem half solved. Remember that a good problem statement contains what is wrong, where it happened, when it happened, to what extent, and how do I know, or what is the standard we failed to meet. Here is an example. In 2015, the attrition rate of ABC, a service company, was 25%, compared to the industry average, which is only 19%. By studying the process, you can specify the root cause, because problems may be present in a specific part of the process. In this step, you are trying to determine the possible causes why the problem happens, or what factors allow this problem to occur. There are 3 basic tools that will help you study the process. Gemba Walk. Simply as go and see. It is a tour of the area where the work is taking place, purposely to get information, such as defects, root causes, and other information that can lead to targeted improvements. Brainstorming. All participants contribute their ideas, and the idea collector records them to find a conclusion to a specific problem. Process mapping. A workflow diagram to bring forth a clearer understanding of a process. It is a team effort. One person does not have all the process knowledge. These are just 3 of the basic tools you can use in analyzing the process. Next is we identify the root cause. Using the 3 basic tools will guide you in identifying the root cause of the problem. The key is to pinpoint the real cause of the problem instead of understanding its symptoms. Here are useful tools used to determine the root cause. 5 whys. It is a repetitive question asking technique which you can use to examine and analyze the cause and effect relationships underlying a specific issue or problem. By repeatedly asking why, you can peel back the layers of an issue. How would you know you have reached the last why? When you have identified a system non-conformance or a system deficiency, you stop at the root cause, which is actionable. Also known as the 80-20 rule, it is a theory maintaining that 80% of the output in a given situation or system is produced by 20% of the input. This is a decision-making technique by ranking various causes of the problem and concentrate on the item with the largest impact. Here's an example. XYZ clothing store was seeing a steady decline in business. Before the manager did a customer survey, he assumed the decline was due to customer dissatisfaction with the clothing line he was selling, and he blamed his supply chain for his problems. After charting the frequency of the answers in his customer survey, however, it was very clear that the real reasons for the decline of his business had nothing to do with his supply chain. By collecting data and displaying it in the chart, the manager could see which variables were having the most influence. In this example, parking difficulties, rude salespeople, and poor lighting were hurting his business most. Following this principle, those are the areas where he should focus his attention to build his business back up. The Fishbone Diagram, also known as the cause and effect diagram. This will help you identify many possible causes for an effect or a problem. Ideas are directly sorted into different categories. The tree diagram. It is a visual illustration of relationship that starts with a central node or trunk. Its possible solution or event has its own branch, which comes off the trunk to the top or bottom right-hand side. This tool will help you break down categories from the big picture to the very detail of an issue. Benchmarking. A search for the best practices that yields the benchmark performance with emphasis on how are you able to apply the process to achieve superior results. In benchmarking, it is needed for you to identify benchmarking partners, select the best approach in benchmarking, gather information through research, surveys, or benchmarking visits, select ideas to implement and test effectiveness. And finally, implement a solution or corrective action. Remove the temporary or band-aid solutions to permanently fix the problem. By becoming acquainted with these simple tools presented to you by AGF Consulting Group, you'll be able to successfully apply and determine the root cause to eliminate the problems you encounter at work. For more information, visit our website at www.
All right, there's an overview video on some different types of problem-solving methods and ideas. There's a couple in there that we hadn't spoke about, but you can see that there's lots of different types of problem-solving ideas and methods. I'm just going to share this screen with you again. You should be able to see that fishbone diagram, which they talked about in that particular video. That's just one of the many methods used. So let's have a look at a couple of, now go to a couple of problem-solving mistakes. I've got a couple of pages of them here, in fact. Some of the mistakes that we can, or often exhibited during the problem-solving methods are refusing to acknowledge that a problem exists, looking for quick fixes, thinking that there won't be a problem, fixing symptoms instead of root causes. I always think symptoms and root cause is the symptom of would be like a band-aid. Putting a band-aid on a sore on your leg would be treating a symptom rather than treating the cause. Focus on putting out small fires instead of addressing the big picture problem. So putting out the little issues rather than addressing the big problem. Rushing to solve a problem before understanding the problem can lead to a lot of wasting of time. Fearing to share out the box ideas during brainstorming. Risk of groupthink during brainstorming or conforming to what everyone else is suggesting. Not having an open mind during brainstorming. Poor facilitation in brainstorming sessions. Solving the wrong problem. Some more mistakes. Looking for someone to blame. Not listening or seeking feedback from others. Thinking that you should have all the answers. Lack of clear communication. Assuming that people already know what to do. Fear of making the wrong decision. Wrong assumptions. Procrastinating to make a decision or choosing among alternatives. Refusing to acknowledge when a solution is not working. Doing nothing when a problem arises. Taking a long time before attending to a problem, or not being flexible or adaptable when assumptions and conditions change. So problem solving requires some technique, and we can make mistakes in those techniques as well. So it's a good idea to have a plan and a system to follow when solving problems that can ensure or at least minimize some of these mistakes that might be made. And being aware of some of your own attitudes around problem solving can help significantly in coming up with the right problem solving or the right solutions for problems. Just getting towards the end now, we're talking about monitoring and reporting. If we've been through a problem solving process, we've resolved a particular problem, or we've come up with some solutions and we've implemented some solutions to our particular problem. As the heading says here, once a problem has been identified and solutions have been obtained, a monitoring process should be implemented. Some things to consider whilst monitoring the effectiveness of a solution are the inputs. So what are the inputs? What are the outputs? What are the outcomes? And what are the impact? So that's a sort of a four-step process, if you like. So what are inputs? Well, inputs could be something along the lines of what resources are required to make that solution actually happen. Do we need to buy some more equipment? Do we need more staff? Do we need to change our policies? These are inputs or changes to an input. Outputs are, I'm just going to put my glasses on there. It's a little bit hard to read from here. Outputs is measuring performance. So what is the quantity and the quality of those products and services that we've delivered? Outcome measurement. So we need to measure what it is that we've caused by putting that solution in place. So we need some sort of measurement to understand whether we're actually made a difference or not. And then getting on to impact. So what are the social and larger business impacts attributable to that particular situation or that particular outcome? So that would be monitoring and reporting, or just monitoring, I should say. So once we've gathered that information on the effectiveness of a solution, we may be required to report to your supervisor or business owner. This information may be in the form of graphs and statistical or numeric information, customer feedback, staff observations, workflow patterns, employee morale, efficiency improvements. All of these things could be something that you would put into a report. That information can then be compiled for management and further communicated to all staff who were involved in the problem initially, and also can be used for continuous improvement in business and work. It's continuous improvement is something that's happening all the time and can add to increased efficiencies of a business. So just getting to a conclusion, problem solving entails making corrections and improvements when things don't go as expected. Some problems can be fixed in a short amount of time, while others take longer to be resolved. At a minimum, when faced with a problem, take some time to figure out what the real problem is, what caused the problem, and to find out the potential alternatives to address the problem. And afterwards, select the best possible solution. Devise a plan for carrying out the solution, then implement that. finalised by monitoring your progress and evaluating whether the problem has been resolved. So that's the end of our tutorial for today, resolving routine problems in an automotive workplace. Once you've finished this tutorial, I'm just sharing with you now the assessment resource. There it is in the College Cloud. You can now go to the download that button there, download that onto your desktop or your laptop or whatever device you're using. Save that to your device. It's an editable PDF, so you can tick the boxes where required here, work through these questions, and there's a practical task at the end which we'll do once we're in the workshop. But before then, you can tick the boxes where required. There's an example there. And then complete that assessment. Once you've downloaded it onto your desktop and completed it, then you can upload that completed assessment tool just here. So if you continue scrolling down, it's a matter of either clicking to upload or dragging and dropping the completed assessment into that box there. Once it's there, we will receive it on our end, and we'll be able to mark and assess that once we have received it. So thanks again for watching today. That's the end of our tutorial today on resolving routine problems in an auto workplace. If you've got any questions at all, feel free to contact me. Andrew Tregoning's my name at the Gold Coast Trade College. I'm one of the automotive teachers. So feel free to make contact with me or anybody else at the college. Have a great day.